this time I'd like to reconvene the public session, also noting that Councilperson Azevedo is still absent, and a report from the city attorney on the closed session.
Yes, City Council discussed the matters in closed session that are listed on the agenda, and there's no reportable action.
And the next order of business is pledge of allegiance by myself, and then invocation by our favorite Pastor Bernie Pledge. Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for the privilege of being here. It's kind of weird that you would call me on April Fool's Day. I thought about that. Maybe there was a point. John said that there would probably be another pastor come in and say, it's not for you, Bernie, it's somebody else. Okay, we're going to take an offering, so.
We don't have no hats.
Erwin has a hat, he'll give it to me, for God's sake, okay? Well, thank you for a privilege of being here. Let me pray with you, and we'll get started, okay? Lord, we do thank you for the city. We thank you for all that you do for us. Sometimes we think that we can run this place without you, and we realize that we need your help. After Herb Higgins' speech the other night, and learning about city and how things are misunderstood, and some rumors start about the city that are not true, and it's kind of like being a pastor of the church, that sometimes people make mistakes and you don't really ask the truth. They believe something without even knowing it. I pray for this city. I know that it's some difficult times we're going through, and I pray, God, that you would give them wisdom and guidance, that the city, Andy, and all the people that's a part of the staff, you bless them and help them, the fire department, the police department, Brian, everybody that's involved in our city. I thank you, God, for them, and I pray that you would bless their lives and help us to realize that it's not in us that we accomplish anything, it's because of you in us. And help us to look to you for guidance and strength and the answers to some of our problems in our city. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the privilege of being here. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I just want to tell you, Easter's coming Sunday. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it is the cornerstone of Christianity. Amen? Amen. Ah, sweet. Love that. And I hope that God will bless you, and that you might want to, wherever you attend church, go and worship. Because without that, everything about Christianity would be a waste of time. It's all about Jesus, and he died on the cross. So thank you for the privilege of being here with you tonight. John, it's good to talk with you. I have no joke. Since it's April Fool's, that should be enough, right?
Thank you, Bernie. The next order of business is a proclamation for National Donate Life Month, April 2015.
Did you go there the first way? No, I couldn't. It was so good. They did with his picture. And the food. We had a taco, a sandwich, chili birdie, and a tray. Everything I wanted.
This is a proclamation, but it's a unique one. And it's whereas organ tissue, marrow, and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. More than 123,000 individuals nationwide and more than 21,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list. And every 90 minutes, one person dies while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic and African American communities, and whereas more than 600,000 units of blood per year are needed to meet the needs in California, and at any given time, 6,000 patients are in need of voluntary marrow donor, and a single individual's donation of heart, lungs, liver, kidney, pancreas, and small intestines can save up to 8 lives. Donation of the tissues can save and heal the lives of up to 50 others. And a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. And whereas millions in lives all over each year are saved and healed by donations, organs, tissues, marrow, and blood, the spirit of giving and the decision to donate are not restricted by age or medical condition. And nearly 12 million Californians have signed up, and the state authorized Donate Life California Registry to ensure their wishes to be organ and tissue donors are honored. And whereas California residents can sign up with Donate Life Registry when applying for or renewing your driver's license or ID card at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Now therefore, I, Herb Higgins, Mayor of the City of Norco, on behalf of the City Council, in recognition of National Donate Life Month, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2015 as DMV Donate Life California Month. And I encourage all Californians to check when applying or renewing your driver's license and ID card. Good program. I'm a donor.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you say a few words, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Your Honor, and the esteemed council. On March 1st, 2012, our lives dramatically and forever changed when our 18-year-old son was killed by a hit-and-run driver. He was on his way home from work. But our son was an organ donor. And because of that, he has helped save many lives. Because he died at the scene, he was not taken to the hospital or not put on life support. He was taken to the morgue. When they did the national database, they found out he was an organ donor. So he became a bone, marrow, tissue, organ, cornea donor, and has helped save many lives. We know that one of his corneas went to Boston. My wife happens to have family in Boston, Boston Irish. And we are very proud, of course, we were always proud of him, but to know that he took this upon himself at an early age of 18 to be so selfless, to think that if anything had ever happened to him, he would want to be an organ donor. I was unaware he was an organ donor, and when the county coroner and the police department and the paramedics were in our living room telling us our son would never come home, one legacy called, and I said, I'm a nurse, been a nurse for more than 30 years. I said, you're not touching my baby. Well, his younger brother says, Dad, Tyler was an organ donor. So I had to have that change in my mind and think what Tyler wanted and not what I wanted. Even as a nurse, I just didn't want him to take anything at that point. I'm very pleased that I didn't override his decision. I couldn't, actually, because he was 18 when he made that decision. So, Mayor, we want to thank you and the council for honoring this, to let people know about this, and getting the word out there. And to all of you organ donors out there, as the mayor said in his proclamation, your age does not preclude you. The oldest record here in California was a 92-year-old woman, and she was able to donate her corneas. So she helped someone see, maybe for the very first time. So just because we think, I hear that all the time when we do tablings, oh, I'm too old, they wouldn't want anything I have. Well, you never know what they're able to use.
And you have an event coming up.
We do. We have the Run Walk coming up, and honey, why don't you speak on that?
So, and we're hoping
And
that,
I've already said I would.
so I will get in touch with them because I, for the, need to know your shirt size and all that good stuff, and So I will get back in touch with you and so we can set it up and I can let them know. It's a really great event. And I mean, because when you're there, you're celebrating people's lives. We're celebrating the people who are donors, donor families. We're celebrating the people who are living donors that have gave their kidneys or to somebody that they may not even know. And people who were waiting to be recipients. So it's a day of a lot of emotions, a lot of celebration because we're not there. We're missing our loved ones, but we're celebrating on what they did. And it's the Donate Life Run Walk, and it's at Cal State Fullerton on April 25th. And
It's an annual event.
and whoever wants to come, you can still sign up. It costs us $25. And my team is Team Tyler.
Our team.
This is Tyler, so I was real original Team Tyler. And but anybody can join any team, start your own team, and come down and have a lot of fun. They have entertainment, there's food, there's the walk, the run walk. I walk. I mean, I can't run the 5 mile, the 5K, so, but that's okay. Most people walk. And it's really a time of celebrating people's lives because there are so many people who are out there that need a transplant. And some, unfortunately, do not get the transplant at the time that they pass away. But we're all there, and I'm hoping that you decide when you do go to DMV or you can sign up on Donate Life California, that you will say yes. But we know it's a personal choice, and some people, they just can't do it at that time, but that's okay. Because maybe later on, you might be able to say yes. So,
This
I'm so glad.
called the Marathon. And that means, I have walked 5Ks since I left Vietnam in '68, so that ought to be exciting.
Well, what's nice is they do have a 1K, and I did
Yes, sir.
one. So the first year I did 5K, last year I did the 5K, and I had 5 miles. So I will probably be doing the 1K.
Good, I'm probably with you. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ben, for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You take care. And city council business items, item number 1, a presentation on the Hamner Avenue Bridge Improvement Project. You got this, Andy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I have with us here Tefun Saglam. He's a project manager with the County of Riverside, and he's in charge of implementing the Hamner Avenue Bridge project. As you know, the County of Riverside is the lead agency for this project. So he's here tonight to give us some background information regarding that bridge project, as well as tell us where we are and what remains to be done going forward.
Good evening.
Hi there.
I'm one of the engineering project managers of the County of Riverside, but I double as in an unofficial position as the
Pull
county's.
it up just a little bit closer.
Sure. I also double as the county's bridge engineer. I was the project manager for the replacement of the River Road and the Van Buren bridges. And currently I'm working on the Hamner, Mission, and the Market. It's a all order, and with the funding difficulties, local funding difficulties, we've got a task in our hands. I've got 34 years of bridge design and project management experience. And Let me start with the Hamner. Hamner Avenue is an approximately 8.5-mile stretch of road extending through the cities of Norco and Eastvale. It runs parallel to the Interstate 15 and extends from Riverside Drive in the city of Eastvale at the north end to the southern boundary of the city of Norco at the south end. Hamner serves not only as a local arterial, but also as an alternate route to the Interstate 15. Hamner Bridge is one of the few all-weather crossings over the Santa Ana River, and I'll make this statement with a caution because it cannot carry or it cannot pass the 100-year flood under it. That's one of the reasons that we are looking at replacing the structure. The bridge site is near the border between the city of Norco and the city of Eastvale. It's approximately 1,300 feet to the west of the Interstate 15 bridges over Santa Ana River, and it is entirely in the city of Norco. The existing structure has got 2 traffic lanes with absolutely no shoulders. It carries heavy traffic bypassing Interstate 15 when there is congestion, maintenance activities, or an emergency on the freeway. By 2009 counts, it carries an average daily traffic of 17,000 vehicles. This number is expected to top 40,000 by year 2035. In 1978, the existing bridge was retrofitted, seismically retrofitted, and it was also widened to provide a pedestrian crossing that is barrier protected. However, we believe that the 1978 seismic upgrade work is now outdated and insufficient in consideration of the new Caltrans seismic design criteria. As it is, the bridge is listed in the federal eligible bridge list with a status flag of structurally deficient. It's also functionally obsolete. Since the bridge is rated structurally deficient, with an SR sufficiency rating, this is a parameter for funding less than 80, the bridge is eligible for rehabilitation as it is. However, in cooperation with the 2 cities, we believe that the 75-year-old bridge has completed its useful life and it needs to be replaced. It won't be prudent to attempt to rehabilitate this structure. Indeed, I do not know any rehabilitation process that will overcome the northern spans being overtopped by a 100-year flood. As a result, the project that we are proposing currently is a 1,200-foot bridge replacing the existing 767-foot bridge. What we are targeting right now is the bridge is indicated, or the bridge location is indicated as a 6-lane town facility. To the north of Schleitzman, Hamner is already 6 lanes. So we are targeting to be able to fund the structure for 6 lanes. That topic is still in question. We have to do further studies to prove to Caltrans that we have to replace this with a 6-lane rather than a 4-lane structure. The traffic numbers will show that, and also we are required to provide a life cycle cost analysis for the structure to justify the replacement rather than the rehabilitation. Currently, we are estimating the total cost of the project at approximately $56 million. $48.5 million of this is estimated as the construction cost. The rest is for the design and the construction engineering. 88.5% approximately of this money will be coming from the federal funds known as Highway Bridge Program. The rest has to be the local match. Let me give you a status of what we have done so far. I'm pretty sure you have come across the federal process on other projects, so it's very tedious and it sometimes tests your reserve. But we're pushing as hard as we can right now. So far, we have prepared a limited feasibility study for this structure, and then we have applied for programming the bridge for the Highway Bridge Program funds. And we have submitted a request for authorization to initiate the preliminary engineering and environmental document and got approval on that one. The initial approval is for $500,000. We will use that money to justify the total replacement, and we are going to submit for a scope of change to design the bridge for total replacement. We have prepared a request for qualifications and hired already a civil engineering firm for consulting services. It is T. Wylening International. This is the firm that designed the River Road Bridge. The project manager is the project engineer for the River Road, very shrewd, very competent engineer. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a very good time in design. We have already gone through a scope meeting and we brought the design consultant down by 30%. I believe they were too high. They were estimating too much state involvement. We are going to keep the state involvement to an absolute minimum and if possible only environmental. Currently we are working on a 3-agency service agreement. As soon as it is in place, we're going to put the blade down and we're going to go full throttle. Thank you.
Questions? Kevin?
Thank you very much. But there's a lot of rumors going on around the bridge, so I'm glad you were able to come in and kind of enlighten us, so thank you. And I think Andy sent something out to us that was very good, and I think we'll be posting that or at least sending it out somewhere in our newsletter, so thank you very much. You bring more hope than what, although how long did it take to do the River Road Bridge? 22 years?
The first problem started with the bridge in 1995. I was not even on board. I was on the private side at that time. By the time we have hired the consultant and funded the county funded the project, it was 1998. And then, I hate to say this, we have an environmental process. It needs some reform, I believe. There were 12 alternatives for River Road, and they started with the toughest environmental document. After I came on board, we were able to change that environmental document and lowered it 1 grade to an environmental assessment and change the cost of the project. We were able to shorten and then proceed with the design and construction. If I can recall correctly, I believe the construction completion was 2011, but yeah, it speaks for itself.
In the last flood, Berwin and I were at the bridge, we're going, go.
For River Road, right?
Yeah, we were both standing there going,
It was
no,
my
not
exact
for
same
River
thing.
Road, no, for the one, for the Hamner, we're go. We were hoping that sucker would lift up and just float away. Thank you.
So,
Berwin?
No, thank you very much.
Greg?
Thank you so much for your presentation. I think it was the summer of 2011, and that was the dedication of the River Road Bridge. And I may have gone with Berwin. I can't. I think, yeah, we all were. And I always like when all the politicians are patting themselves on the back about a great job, what they did. And two of the things that came out of that was that the length, the process that it took with the River Road Bridge and the statements at that time on when we get to the Hamner Bridge, we're going to do this all so much better, we're going to do it all this much faster. And the contractor at that time for the River Road Bridge, I think the construction part was like 14 months. And I don't know if you remember, wasn't that?
Yeah.
And he stood up and said, if you're ready to go on the Hamner Avenue Bridge, I can build that bridge in 14 months. And so I guess my overall question is with, let's say what we learned of that process on the River Road Bridge and what was, said by whether the federal officials or the county officials, and how we would accelerate our actions on the Hamner Avenue Bridge. By the time schedule we have, we're, on the outside, we're still about 10 years away. What can be done to accelerate this process?
For us right now, the most critical item is one federal rule. You cannot start a project and shelf it. In other words, when we go with the $56 million total budget on the project, feds are going to pay 88.5% of that money. It leaves $6 million plus for the local agencies to come up with their local match. Right now, programs like TUMP, Road and Bridge Benefit District, so on and so forth, are cash-strapped. There isn't simply enough money. Actually, in 2013, we attempted, when RCTC came out with a multi-project call to get the local funds from RCTC, and they were only looking at the projects that are ready for construction. So we were not successful on that one. So this puts a significant burden on the cities. Currently, it's my understanding that the city of Eastville is able to commit to the preliminary engineering and environmental documentation on this job. Past that point, they will work on it, but they are not making a commitment. That means, as Norco, when we walk into this project, we are committed that we're going to deliver this project. There are certain rules that you can back off from a project during the preliminary engineering. One of them is if your studies indicate that you are choosing no build alternative, you can walk away from that one. Also, if there are unforeseen developments, unexpected right-of-way issues that's driving the cost significantly above what you came up with for the programming, then you can say, I'm done, I cannot come up with the monies. But other than these, once you walk into this, you are required to see the project through construction. That means when I'm estimating that we will be getting to that point within 5 years. At that point, we have to come up with or for the construction part, I believe it's $4.5 million approximately. That money has to be present. If we cannot get it from regional programs, it will become an issue. And at that point, if we cannot fulfill our commitments, feds have got the right to say, return the money. So that's the risk we are taking if we move at risk. What we are trying to do right now is to make sure that both cities can commit to this project and come up with the local funds. That's part of the problem. Lately, actually, after I completed the River Road Bridge, the feds came. I've been through so many federal audits, you won't believe it. And I've been through an audit even with the Office of Inspector General. And when Office of Inspector General came to the state, they made several recommendations regarding the local agencies. Many small local agencies are not able to follow the process because it's so convoluted. Well, that results in a lot of scrutiny. And we are trying to cross all T's and dot all I's right now. Otherwise, once they come for the audits, even if it is not fraud, it is simple human error. You may end up with findings. And again, it's triggering potential money withdrawal from the project by the feds. So there's a chapter in Caltrans manuals, chapter 10. Within the past 3 years, I do not know how many times they have revised this chapter. I'm not exaggerating. Now, actually, when I get into a project, I make a copy of the chapter that's prevalent at that time and put it into the project files. So if they make a modification later, they don't come and say, you didn't follow this. No, I did. Here's my copy. This was the valid document at that time. Yeah. So this part is very tedious. And I'm hoping that we've learned a lot on the environmental process, and also the MSHCP is in place. We will not have some difficulties we had on the River Road and Van Buren. But unforeseen things, for example, there was a court injunction over Santana Sucker. It delayed Van Buren for a year and a half. There was nothing I could do. The federal process is the process. And when we push too hard, the answer we're getting is there are other people who are willing to spend this money. Either follow it or step aside is the answer. So this is what we are dealing with. I'm hoping I've got enough experience on this one, and I got burned enough. So we will avoid those pitfalls. But every project is different. What I can commit to you is we will do our best, okay? But the federal process is a tough process.
Thank you so much.
So,
I have a few. You've touched on them, but I just need a little bit more clarification. When you were talking about retrofitting, does Caltrans make that determination?
In case of Hamner, I believe that was the case. It was many years ago. I believe Caltrans made the determination. If you're asking for this structure right now, no, we will make that determination.
Okay.
One of the first tasks the consultant will start with is an evaluation of the existing bridge. What we are trying to do is to make sure that they understand that this structure needs a lot of work, because they are looking at the cost of retrofitting versus.
Caltrans.
Yeah, actually Feds.
Well, Feds
yeah,
too.
But Caltrans is doing the job for them, yes. So we have to present to them that this structure, in other words, it's more prudent, it's more feasible to replace this structure rather than attempting to
Okay,
retrofit.
but you said earlier it had already been classified as retrofit, and now you are trying to do a total.
It has been classified as structurally deficient, but it has been retrofitted in 1978.
Right.
And what they did, they put cable restrainers in the structure. And, structures have got expansion joints to handle the temperature movements. Those were very short seats in the past. So during a violent shake, they may open up and you may lose the span altogether. So what they did, they put cable restrainers in them to make sure that it's not exceeded in movement, the seat width, so it won't come down. However, the current criteria, in our opinion, is going to render the structure deficient as it is. One of the reasons is, when we did the feasibility study, we looked at the site soils also, and the site soils are prone to liquefaction. Liquefaction is something that the soil becomes like jelly during violent shaking. That means that it's not going to hold your abutments or your piles. We may lose the structure during the maximum incredible earthquake at the site. So that's why, and there's another phenomenon that we know as lateral spread. The north abutment embankment may destabilize. Those are our preliminary observations. We are going to confirm them with the numbers and then present it to the Feds.
If Hamner is an arterial road and an alternate, why isn't Caltrans putting any money in?
It is in local jurisdiction.
Yeah. But at one time, that was a designated route, if you look on the old maps.
There isn't a program that I do know that would contribute from the state for this project, but I can check it for you.
Yeah, if you could.
Sure.
Because I couldn't understand why, I could understand where the lead agency was Riverside and the Fed's money was 83–85%. What I couldn't understand was the designation of Hamner as being a route. I forget what route it was, 22, 23, 1. 31. And if that's the case, it's still got that designation. My question would be, Caltrans should be kicking in money because it's an alternate for the 15.
Let me investigate that, we will look
Yeah.
into it.
And A question about Eastville. They said that they would participate a couple more years, is what they said.
Correct.
And then they would have to evaluate it after that. If that's the case, you mentioned 4.5 million, roughly,
Correct.
that Norco would have to come up with, or would TUMP and Norco have to come up with
Correct.
within 5 years. I think that was your 5 million, regionally 4.5 million out of the first 6 million
Um,
for the design study and things.
The participating costs that we are estimating at $48.5 million for the construction right now. At 88.5%, we will be able to get roughly 43 million out of that one from the feds. And then there's a requirement for 5.5 or 5.6 million dollars for local match.
So if we're 5 to 6 years away, that takes us to 2021, 2022, and then another 14 to 18 months for construction.
If everything goes all right, and my current schedule
the
is,
sun don't
we will
shine.
be able to start advertising for this one in the summer of 2020. And at that time, we need that money. In other words, when the feds authorize us for the federal portion, we have to be able to show the local match. Yeah, if there are difficulties, there are certain rules they may extend, but sometimes it's conflicting with the state's rules. So typically, what the state says for construction, once they authorize the money, you have to complete the construction and complete the project within 6 years with a 2-year extension. Any money is encumbered and not spent by that time will be withdrawn. You know, so you have to come up with the local match to be able to move it whole thing.
So at the very earliest, you're talking summer of 21.
Summer of 2020. Yeah.
That's when you start, but I'm talking about
Yeah.
when we can use the bridge.
Towards the end of 22.
Yeah, 22, yeah. You got one more, Greg?
When you say local match, that also means the county?
No.
The cities and the county?
No, county is not a financial participant. Actually, by law, as far as I know, that we cannot put the county money in another local jurisdiction.
Would that, so that wouldn't, RCTC?
Yeah, that's.
No,
That's
local,
local, that's
regional
TUMP.
programs are fair
Okay,
game.
so
Yeah,
we-
we can go after them, it's no problem.
That's a TUMP active bridge.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
We just don't have enough building anymore to fulfill that TUMP fund up again.
That's really slow.
That's what the problem is, yeah. Well, we thank you very much. It was very enlightening. One last one, you said that in 2030, 2040, that
2035, it's expected to exceed 40,000 vehicles per day.
I don't even know if a 6-lane bridge is gonna hold that. But anyway, anyway, we appreciate you coming. We're on your own time now, so we really appreciate your efforts and what you've presented to us. You've answered a lot of questions, and we thank you for that. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your patience.
They're making a 6-lane highway that's being meant to be 4-lane on our side. There's
Item 2 is City Council Communications Reports, Regional Boards.
3 lanes.
Kevin?
One of the things that's really come along, which is I sit on the Riverside, the Corona Community Regional Hospital Board. And that's a hospital that's really raising the bar on the level of care, but they now have up and running, and it's really an amazing program for a stroke center, which they work in tandem with the UC Irvine and that medical center, which is one of the best in the state of California. So after 5 years, we finally been able to get that center going. As you know, strokes are something that you have to really get on within the first couple of hours. And secondly, if you haven't had a chance, go to the senior center and have a look at the senior garden. There's an Eagle Scout project, which is absolutely amazing. And you know, it's like every year the projects get better and better and better. But this young kid raised $6,000 to $7,000, and he is encircling every one of the gardens and cleaning them up and painting them and sanding them. And I mean, he must have had 20 people out there working, dads and friends, and pulling people off the street. And it's just an amazing project. And now he's got another buddy who wants to do a project over there to put in electric. And I said, well, you're gonna have to like get real electricians out there. He goes, we'll do it. And then I said, you know, you're kind of crazy to do this project. He goes, I know I'm crazy, but I'm getting it done. So very impressive. If you haven't a chance, the senior garden's one of the neat areas in our city. And if you have a chance, go look at it. It's really, really nice. And the seniors just love it. They're stoked. So they're even cleaning up their gardens and planting things. And very exciting. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Berwin?
I have nothing to report.
Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow evening, I have the Chino DeSalter Authority meeting, and hopefully I'll be getting an update on the Santa Ana River microtunneling project. I'm sure a few of you have noticed they've been out potholing the streets on Detroit between Old Hamner and the 15 freeway, so I'll have more of an update on that at our next meeting. One thing I was going to ask, it's actually Cheryl. Last Sunday there was an article in the Press Enterprise on the Chino DeSalter Authority. Is it possible on our website to put the link to this article? It really gives a good explanation, and there's pictures that help me understand what we really do there. So I'll give that to you if we can do that. And then I'm just going to touch on this, and I'll let the mayor finish up with it.
No, you started. Good.
I'll start it, you can finish. You can be the closer. This last Monday, Lori Askew, Andy, the mayor, and myself took a tour of CR&R in Paris. It's a mixed solid waste or material recovery facility. And they are in construction on an anaerobic digester. I think, if I recall right, it's approximately a $35 million project. And so we took a tour of that and had a really good presentation on what this digester is going to do. And as some of you know, that we use our manure and our green waste to achieve our diversion rates, which is a state requirement. And those rates are going, the percentages of diversion, I believe, are going to increase by the year 2020. And so they're trying to prep themselves for this. But what this facility, this digester will be able to do is not only take, on the low end, horse manure, cow manure, and all the green waste, but basically all organics, which would be your food waste, cooking oils, anything that would go down the garbage disposal, this digester can take. And the end result will be RNG gas, Lori? Yeah, RNG, not CNG. It'll produce RNG gas, which will then, they will use to fuel their fleet vehicles. So it's a pretty dynamic project, and I was certainly impressed with them. But we have a whole bunch of process and steps to go through. I'll let the mayor finish up with that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, yeah, you did. Okay. You did. They're supposed to finish construction. That their projection is October, and they're going to be online in January. But what amazed me was, as Greg mentioned, oftentimes you'll hear them talk about when they're talking anaerobic digesters, they're talking about green waste and manure and all the other things that when it breaks down, it creates an enzyme and then it produces the RNG and the pellets. And this one is going to take the grease from the restaurants, milk from dairies, and other things, and it's all going to be thrown in together. There's 4 chambers. Each one drives its own self. They can measure the temperature of it by the breakdown of the consistency of it, and then through ports, they add whatever they need for a particular section based on the temperature that they're trying to get. So if they want 146 degrees, they can add certain chemical to it, and a chemical being manure or green waste or another product to raise the temperature of the digestive processes to get an ultimate breakdown of what they're after. I guess if there is a bad side, and it wouldn't be for them, they contracted with a German firm on a sole basis for California. They negotiated with these people to build this facility in California for them. Anybody that wants this technology can't do it in California. They've got to go to another state to do it. That was the agreement with this German patented technology. And then they've got some French and Italians that are mixed in with it that are building other parts of the facilities, the turbines, the wheels, and all of the other things. So it's definitely an international project. They have already got 5 or 6 cities online already with contracts to supply them with what they need for the first phase. They've already, and they had, don't quote me, I think it was close to $8 million in feds, state, and local monies that were going into the project to help them fund this thing, a $35 million project. The unique part about it is they've already set up the electrical for 3 phases and the other items that they need. So they front-loaded a bunch of things in the first contract so that when they build the next one, they've got the infrastructure already there, and then the next one they've got the infrastructure there. So as they come online, they can take more and more cities, and that's what they're after. Because their feeling is that in 2020, when the new regulations go into effect, the diversion credits, as Greg mentioned, see, we get diversion credits for manure because it don't go to the landfill. If Viramontes stops producing, our only alternative is that landfill, unless we can truck it to Arizona or Cadiz, someplace out in there. But the same problem is going to be with green waste as well. They're going to change that diversion credit in 2020 as well. So what's going to happen is, if the cities don't comply with their green waste and manure, you're looking at fines upwards of $10,000 a day when you're not diverting enough out of the landfill. We're just running out of landfill space. So this is an alternate energy source. And it's interesting to us because we produce over 68 tons of manure a day and over 150 tons of green waste. So both of those items could eventually go into this digester and come out as fuel or pellets for nurseries and gardening and things like that. No waste at all. And the unique part is there's no smell. They've combined it all inside in layers of foam and plastic, and it looked like about 4 inches of a special concrete inside of both of these insulators. So the odor that you would normally have, and I asked them about hydrogen sulfide, because that's the egg smell that you often smell, is the HS2 gas. And they said that it's all inside. And that's the unique part. They've been cleared by EPA, AQMD, Water Quality Control Board, everybody else. They are building this thing. And they're going to be online and functioning in January with these contract cities they've already got. So the people that were there, did I leave anything out, Lori? You were there, you asked a lot of questions. They wouldn't let us take pictures. And he was concerned about what my occupation was and why I was looking at everything so closely. And then he found out that I was a vice president of corporate resources for a construction company. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. But everything is patented, the whole process, no pictures, no nothing. And he was a little cautious about what he told us as well. But it's exciting. It's exciting for a new phase, and they're about 4 years ahead of themselves. That's the bottom line. They're 4 years ahead of themselves, and they're going to be in operation and producing. So, you bet you can.
They didn't harass me like they did Herb.
That's because he worked for them before.
Yeah, it's, the other thing I found interesting was that they're by a water sewer treatment plant. So their water requirements will be the reclaimed wastewater that nobody wants. And that's what they'll be able to use in this facility also. So
Yeah.
It's dialed in. There's no doubt about it. Thank you.
And item 2 is the consent calendar, and I have cards for C, E, F, and G. Any others want to be pulled?
Motion to approve the rest, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Motion to approve the rest.
Second.
Bash,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Newton,
Yes.
passes 4-0.
2C, Greg, you got that one?
Yes. Guess I'll start with Steve on this. At the last council meeting, there was a majority vote to just basically say no storage buildings on 6th Street. And in this report, and Steve and I talked about this, that it's still saying that it can be denied, but they can reapply in a year. Okay. So I'm trying to understand the basis of that. If the direction of council was no more storage buildings, why are we coming back to say, well, we'll deny you today, but you can reapply in a year?
That's just a code allowance based on.
It's because it requires a CUP, and the statute, our code says that the denial is good for a year, and that it doesn't prevent you from coming back and asking again for, maybe with different conditions, which would make a future council happy. But our code allows the applicant who's denied to reapply after a year. Doesn't mean you accept it, just.
Yeah, I didn't feel that was the direction of council at the last meeting. That was just flat out.
Well, except that one, keep in mind, the only thing you had on the agenda of the last meeting was this particular project.
Right.
If you decided that you didn't want to have this use anywhere, you're going to amend the code to eliminate the ability to get it with the
Right.
6 feet.
Correct. And Planning Commission is working on on that at this time, correct?
They're working on revising the entire C4
C4.
zone, so this will be part of that.
So hence my dilemma that at the last meeting, I voted no for the denial based on that it was in our code and it was a conditionally permitted use, and we added some conditions. But then the majority was to deny it. So I still feel in one sense that it is a permitted use, conditionally permitted. And so I'm just, I have a little heartburn on how to look at this. Is that changing? Is this changing anything?
No, and the denial from the last meeting in this resolution can't be based upon a feeling, well, we don't want them, period. It has to be based upon that application for conditional use permit and the conditions applying the code criteria weren't sufficient to allow you to approve it. But it doesn't mean that under some circumstances, theoretically, that storage could be approved. I'll make something, I'm not suggesting this is what would happen, but making this up. That if we're completely enclosed and had a roof and no one could see it, maybe a council would approve that. And until the code changes, that's theoretically possible. If the code does change, not allowing storage, period, then that's the end of the discussion. But it has to be, it's based upon this particular project and the fact that even with the conditions that applying the criteria applied for CUPs and the impact on adjacent properties and blah, blah, blah.
So this is denial without prejudice. It could be changed to denial with prejudice.
Right now, it's denial with prejudice, which means they'd have to wait a year.
Without prejudice, it could come back sooner.
Oh, it could come back sooner. It wouldn't just go away. Thank you, Steve.
But the resolution that you have is denial with prejudice.
Which means they can come back in a year. Thank you.
If I can jump in, Mr. Mayor? The context we have to look at this is, and I see where you're going, Greg, and I agree with you, but the context is that we have to develop, we have some strange uses on 6th Street in terms of commercial. And obviously what we want to do is begin to foster commercial entities on 6th Street that generate sales tax. We already have a huge problem in that they're long, narrow lots, and we usually need 2, 3, or 4 of those. We'll get 2 or sometimes 3 that want to sell. The 4th one says, oh, so how much do you really want to put that project in? And it's killed many projects. So I think that as planning looks through this, I'm hoping that they kind of have that vision in mind, that it's about developing a commercial zone. Storage units, different kinds of uses that don't generate sales tax. We have 6th Street, Hamner Avenue, 2nd Street, Hidden Valley, and essentially that's all we have in 15 square miles to generate money. So I just think that we make sure that we keep, not that you didn't, because like I said, I agree with you. We've got to keep our eye on the ball in terms of the generation of sales tax with businesses that are conducive to the lifestyle. So, anyway, just want to put this.
Although, again,
No, I know what you're
that's
saying.
not the basis upon which you deny
I
this.
absolutely, I totally understand, I totally get it, but I just want to make sure that as we go forward. Thank you.
Motion. Greg? Yeah, all set. Want a motion? Any more questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Bash.
Yes.
Hannah. Higgins.
Yes.
Newton.
No.
Passes 3-1.
And with that, 2E, you've got that one too, Greg.
I'm going to throw Lori a curveball here. I want to give you a compliment. on this bid package, all right? So grab your hat here. No, honestly, that,